Today, the podcast, wrapping up all of the NBA draft stuff and the trades. We got Will Cain. Please subscribe and leave a comment review. We got Butler to the T-Wolves. It's tough to ever get equal value for these guys. They did not get it, but does that mean the Bulls are awful? Also, which young NBA team core has the best future? And a great famous dude who's also normal. That's Josh Duhamel.
The Ryen Russillo Show podcast.
Let's do this. Draft recap. All 60 picks, starting at 60. Go, Will Cain.
What did you say?
I'm just kidding.
I actually tuned out for like 5 seconds, and you came back with, what was it?
Blacked out for a second.
Rattle off 1 through 60?
No, we will not do that. That was something I would have done like 10 years ago. I'd be like, my favorite 5 picks in the 40s.
Okay,
Next.
it's time for 1 second. By the way, yesterday you came out of the gates like let's just say yesterday you were doing 90 out of the gates.
Yeah.
Where are you today?
I'm good. I'm good to go.
No, but give me a number. Are you like
70? I'm still happy. I'm doing my stuff. Yesterday was a long day, 17 hours on campus.
70's a nice cruising speed.
Yeah. So Mike, and then 1:30 walking out of here saying hi. I didn't see the maintenance guy that was like, today's your day, man. He was already checked out, but I'm good to go, man. Mike and Mike this morning, all the stuff, not a ton of surprises. You're here. You're challenging me. You've been off on the side working on projects. You're like a beautiful mind sometimes on show prep. I don't even know what to do with you.
Okay, but here's where I'm getting.
Okay.
How deep could you go? If I put you on the spot right now with what happened last night, off just memory, don't stop looking at that computer screen.
Oh, I couldn't because we were getting ready for. It was such a free for all with all the trades and like this guy's and this team. If I told you if you went like right now, who's 48th? I would forget it was Sindarius.
Oh, 48. Could you go 15 easy? Could you go 20 easy? Could you rattle off where do you falter? What number do you falter at?
Probably around 15.
I think 15 is my number.
Yeah.
I think I can get to 15.
I could. You want to try?
Which one? You want to make a little side wager? Who goes furthest? But the problem is we can't. How would we do that?
No, and I can only imagine how terrible that segment would be on the air. No, wait.
Actually, I disagree. I think it would be good.
I didn't go yet. The headliner for last night: Jimmy Butler gets traded, and Jimmy Butler gets traded to a team with the T-Wolves that we thought he was getting traded to last year. 1 year ago, I was in Brooklyn. We were doing the draft. We're like, this Jimmy Butler thing could be happening. Could be being moved to the T-Wolves for the pick that was number 5, Chris Dunn, who was traded last night, and Zach LaVine, who was part of last night's trade. And then they get the 7th pick last night, so it's Lauri Markkanen. They kick back their 16th, which ends up being Patton. And now you're sitting there going, well, what do we have? We have a disappointed fan base in Chicago and what should be a bunch of pumped T-Wolves fans.
Mm-hmm. It's 100% disapproval rating on Chicago's trade. And that, as I explained to you yesterday, there is little radars going off for me like, whoa, everyone's panning this trade. Something's wrong. Here we go. Maybe the Bulls are on to something. But no. I broke this thing down every which way I could, and I just can't see how a horrible rookie year by Chris Dunn, a half a year before restricted free agency of Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen is what Jimmy Butler's worth. I just don't see that can't be what Jimmy Butler's worth.
You can not like the trade, and I know no one does, but there are 2 things that I'm going to remind you of. One is, if he's been on the block this long, don't we have to at least give the Bulls a benefit of the doubt that this is kind of what the market was? They may have taken the wrong package back, but it can't be because they were surprised, panicked, or just last minute. Like somebody asked me, the Bulls panicked. How can you panic when you almost pulled the same trade off exactly 365 days ago?
And you've been gauging the market for, as you said, over
not exactly,
a year.
Off by a couple of days, but you're right.
Yeah, no, right. Gauging the market for over a year. They probably have their finger on the pulse of the Jimmy Butler market.
If you were for an entire year kind of getting calls here or there on your guy in Jimmy Butler, you probably understand the landscape. Now, did you make the wrong choice? Like, I would have thought if the Celtics said, we'll just give you 3. We'll give you 3. We'll give you Tatum. You can have Tatum. And we'll take Butler. We'll figure out the contract stuff, move some pieces out, because obviously the Celtics would still want some flexibility to do maybe something bigger in free agency. Let's not worry about all the stuff that didn't happen. But if you were Boston, would you offer 3 to the Bulls? And if you were the Bulls, would you take 3?
If I'm Boston, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Okay. Do you do it if you're
Butler
Chicago?
for Tatum?
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
Okay.
And if I'm Chicago, I like Tatum better than the collection of guys I got from Minnesota.
We are in agreement, but I don't know. Maybe Chicago looked at it and said, this gives us 3 shots at this thing. I don't know what that means.
Here's what I think happened. I think we can accept all the premises we just laid down, that Chicago had their finger on the pulse of the Jimmy Butler market, and yet still did panic. I do think they made an emotional decision. And I think the emotion was driven by two things, right? Number one, they sold at the peak of the draft value market. The night of the draft, nothing has more value than a potential filled draft pick. If they had waited, in my estimation, 1, 2, 3 more days, a week, then Jimmy Butler has more value. And I like how Indiana held Paul George because of that. Here's my prediction, by the way. Indiana's going to get more for 1 year of Paul George than Chicago got for 2 years of Jimmy Butler.
That I'm not ready to co-sign at all. But I have to go back to the sentence you said prior to that, and that is you think that Butler would have been more valuable next week than he was last night?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because I think draft picks, and even if they're realized, and you know it's Lauri Markkanen, are more valuable the day before the draft and the day of the draft than literally hours later.
So you're treating it like a new car.
It's a boat. Yeah, new car, a boat. You drive off the sales lot, and you're like, I just paid $30,000 for that. It's suddenly worth 15. Suddenly, it's worth 15. So you sold at the highest possible value market for a draft pick or just drafted player. Second, the reason I think it's emotional, Ryan, is this. And I'm going to lean on you. I'm going to lean on guys like Jeff Goodman, who know this better than I do. But Chicago was in love with Chris Dunn a year ago. And despite a year's worth of evidence that you were wrong about Chris Dunn, and hey, maybe he pulls it together once this thing's all said and done.
Yeah, maybe it's a bad fit, all these different things.
Whatever.
Right.
But you do have a year's worth of evidence.
Yeah, he's 23 and he hadn't been able to shoot it well.
Yeah. You still were in love with him a year later. I think it's emotional for Chicago. I think they made an emotional decision, and they lost his trade because of that.
Even if I'd agree with you on kind of the car driving off the lot, next week draft picks aren't worth as much, so you made the trade when the draft pick is at its optimum value. That's also the way business is done. People don't do this thing where it's in the NBA, all right, go ahead and make the pick, and the T-Wolves have to pull the plug on a player. Like, they have to actually decide on who they want to pick, and they can't do this in-between thing where we go, well, let's take Markkanen because the Bulls still kind of like him and we're close on the trade and we'll see if you just kind of have to do business last night on that one if you're ready to move on from Jimmy Butler. And again, we may disagree with what they were offered for Butler. I don't know how much stuff out there was better. I'm just theorizing on Boston where I thought that'd be a perfect fit for both of them. But if you're the Bulls and you're making this deal, you want to make the pick at 7. So you don't want to trade for the guy that gets picked last week.
So what about the hot sports opinion I just gave that ultimately the package that pulls Paul George will be better than the package that Jimmy Butler just got? You said you can't co-sign that.
No. What
do you think Paul George will get for the Pacers?
Probably a good future first.
A 1 first-round draft pick. You said good, so something unprotected.
So give me like top 5 protected from a team that you think you're going to get it in that 6 to whatever range.
Top 5 protected. Okay, so Paul George gets 6 to 10, 6 to 15, something in there, 6 to 14, and Jimmy Butler gets 3 lotto picks. Which do we still call Chris Dunn a lotto pick?
Yeah, we do.
Do we still call even Zach LaVine? The thing about Zach LaVine is that's a name that everybody's like, they got Zach LaVine. That's that guy. He can jump.
So what are you doing now?
What I'm saying is, look at Zach LaVine. Look what they got for Zach LaVine. He's hurt. He's coming back.
Yeah, but people come back now, man. I mean, LaVine's
Ryan,
one
I
of the
said
best
this in
athletes
passing.
in the league.
He's coming back a few months before restricted free agency. So Chicago literally gets to see him for what? 4 months before they decide if they want to go all in on Zach LaVine? That's what they traded for.
I don't know what I'm trying to debate right now.
Are we debating? We're just talking here. Just a couple bros, big houses debating.
I don't know. Are you arguing that Paul George will have the better package?
Yes.
Because I'm going to say the likelihood of that is a no.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's how bad. It's how bad what Chicago got for Jimmy Butler. For 2 years of Jimmy Butler, Paul George, 1 year, will command more in the marketplace.
We agree on that part. Legs has this, though, about the T-Wolves.
This team made 7 threes a game last year. It was last in the NBA. This doesn't address that. Okay, Ricky Rubio is going to score at the rim. Karl Anthony Towns is actually the best three-point shooter of this group. Okay, but he's really a guy that's inside out. I like him better when he's inside more. Wiggins and Butler are mid-range and in and can make an occasional three. But their best 4 players combined last year, Kevin, for 4 made threes a game. Okay, Golden State's 4 best players make about 11 or 12 a night. That's the difference. It's hard to win in the NBA shooting twos and free throws.
All right, coming up next, we're going to play this game now that the draft is settled. We're going to go core 3 guys versus the other core 3 guys. So this would be like Bird, Parrish, McHale, or Kareem, Magic, Worthy, but we're going to do it with all the young teams.
Right. I thought you were going to say Bird, McHale, and Parrish versus, hey, Phillies. New lineup.
There you go. Perfect. And Josh Duhamel is going to join us on grooming tips at 1:30 Eastern. With Will Cain today, it's a Russillo Show. Draft Recap Day, ESPN Radio. We're going to go through some of the draft picks that were taken last night and read their tweets. And a bunch have been deleted since these dudes became millionaires and famous. But most of them are pretty harmless, too. So we're not going to, I don't want to sit here and be like, man, I can't believe this 18. You're
harmless?
Right. Will Cain is right to point out a few are. And one guy's just a bad content guy, but he'll keep it zinging out there. This is great content. It's another installment of the Transformers movie. Joining us here, the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Transformers the last night in theaters now. The star of this, Josh Duhamel. What's up, man?
How you doing, Ryan?
Good. We're just going to make sure we have you on the microphone here.
I got to pull this over here a little bit. I'm new.
It was a little more complicated than these sci-fi deals you've been on part of. You are the longest lasting character. Is that true?
I'm kind of the OG now.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I am. I think this is my 4th one, and it was interesting because I missed the last one. When I came back, I didn't know how I was going to feel. I didn't know if it was going to be, awkward. But it just felt like well, first of all, a lot of the crew was there from before, so I knew those guys. So it was almost like just coming home. And weirdly, I felt more comfortable around Michael Bay because I was terrified of him for the first 2 movies because you don't want to ask questions. You just sort of do what you're told and just sort of be there when you're supposed to be there.
Wait.
Yeah, there's a follow-up.
Well, listen.
Yeah. I don't even want you to keep going so that it filibusters past the obvious question. What happens if you ask Michael Bay a question?
You get bayed is what you get.
You
try not to get bayed. And although it's funny to actually watch somebody get bayed, you never want to get bayed. And so that's really what I was trying to avoid. But in retrospect, I sort of enjoy it now too. And I was the one that they would send in to ask questions because as we were shooting this, there were a lot of questions and a lot of confusion. He keeps these movies in his head and doesn't really disseminate any information because it keeps everybody on their toes. And people do come to set like ready to go every day for 8 months straight. It's amazing.
Have you ever caught that DVD extra where there's the voiceover? So remember back in the day you get DVDs, be like, now I want to watch it with a narration.
Yeah.
And there's Armageddon, and there's that clip that's made it out on YouTube where Affleck's like, I just still don't understand why it was easier to train drillers to become astronauts than it would have been to have astronauts drill. And Affleck's like, I said it to Michael, and Michael was like, well, just shut up.
Yeah, just you'll wait till you see it. You'll understand it when you see the movie. That's the famous one.
So does that mean that you stay in touch with Shia, even though he's not a part of this, because you are an OG to this whole thing?
I would love to stay in touch with Shia, but Shia is like, he's off in the woods somewhere right now making some art piece. Literally, I'm not kidding.
No, we know this is accurate.
Yeah, he's out there, I don't even know where, Denmark or somewhere, and he's making some thing. But you know what? That's what I love about Shia. He is his own person. People like to bash him, but he's a unique person.
Unique is a good seed. But here's the other thing that I'm always fascinated by this. When you guys are at this level, you are very protective of each other. So if I were to sit here and start making fun of him, like that would bum you out. I wasn't going to do that.
It wouldn't bum me out. I get it.
Well, he's not going to sell him out though either.
No, but I also don't want to do 8 minutes on it.
But listen. The guy's got he's earned his fair share of criticism. There's no doubt. But I've also seen the side of Shia that's amazing, and he's a really smart kid, and he's just I admire his ability to not really care what people think. Just got to do it. I wish I had more of that.
Right. I feel you keep looking at me like hey, you can get on this interview too. I mean, you literally described Josh as your best friend a minute ago, so I don't want to be like the interloper in this thing.
We go back, Ryan and I.
How does that work? How do you guys go back?
My first
Can't tell that one? What was that?
No, I wish there was a great story there.
I remember my first time here, 7 or 8 years ago.
That's right.
Nobody would talk to me except Ryan. I was like, thanks, man.
No, that's right. It was like he played football, so let's get him in here. It was just you and I in this little closet over there. Not to sound weird.
Look at
but then it's Josh Duhamel in the studio. You are really
now we're both out of the closet and we're out here in the open. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
And good luck with the movie. But I felt like you were closer with Van Pelt, but I've poached some of his high profile guys over the years since the divorce. And there is a story that he like reached out to you, and we were joking about it last night. We were going to have him call in. That he reached out. I was like, so Duhamel did not meet up with you in L.A. because that'd be like another level thing. Like it was cool to see you at an event, but like to go to the house, that's a different level of friendship. That maybe Van Pelt was like knocking the door.
I think that's what he was trying to avoid because he was sort of skirting me. I was like, okay, where are you? Well, I was there, but now I'm over here. I was like, okay, I'll go there. Well, I was there, but now I'm over here.
Your argument is Van Pelt blew you off.
He ducked me. He definitely ducked me.
I'm going to follow up on a question I heard you answer this morning on Mike and Mike. You said like a week ago you ran your boat into a ditch or something and totaled your boat, which, by the way, what I'm following up on here is it was out of the water and on a trailer. How does that happen?
Okay, so I have a cabin not far from, I guess, Fargo. It's in Minnesota near my dad's place near Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And we were kind of in a hurry. We'd gotten a late start that morning. We sort of rushed the trailer hitching of the boat onto the back of the truck. And, they have those safety chains that you're supposed to hook underneath in case it comes off the ball. Well, the chains weren't long enough, so we just tied them, and sure enough, a mile down the road, the thing came off.
Your trailer comes off the hitch.
The trailer came off the hitch and started floating down the freeway. I mean, this could have been really bad. People, it drifted towards the ditch, barely missed this giant electric pole that fed electricity and telephone and whatever else to like houses and buildings within 10 miles. Started a little fire on the side of the road. I had to pat that out with my dad's jacket.
This is kind of amazing.
Totaled the boat. Yeah, it could have been really bad, but, I needed a new one anyway. It was an old 1986 piece of crap.
That's good things are going well for you, that you can upgrade the boat. Josh Duhamel's here again, Transformers, the last night in studio. Give me the moment in filming this that I know you've done a lot of the promo for this, but there really are some elements in filming this that are just different than any other movie.
Yeah, it's as exciting making these movies as it is watching them. It really is. It's crazy. That's one of the reasons I love being a part of this franchise. It's just the amount of stuff that he has at his fingertips to make these movies. And, he's got this huge imagination, and he's got helicopters and drones, and he's got all these crazy cranes, and he's got, explosions. And, it's an amazing thing to watch. And you feel like a little tiny cog in a giant machine. But at the end of the day, I just love I guess I'm addicted to the energy of it. It's always feels a little bit dangerous. You do things that are kind of on the edge, and it's
like fearful. Give me something you were really scared.
I mean, we were on this gimbal. In the movie, it's this giant ship that comes up out of the sea, and we shot it on this gimbal, which is like this giant stage with these two giant hydraulic pumps underneath it that tilts it on like almost up to a 45-degree angle. And then they would unload two 10,000-gallon drums of water onto it, so it looked like giant waves were crashing against it. And we're 50 feet in the air, and at one point, one of the cameramen got washed right off the side. And thank God he was tied to it because he was hanging upside down on this like dolly thing that he was shooting on. I mean,
just dangling.
Would have been really hurt had he not been attached. And it's things like that you're always kind of like, okay, this isn't exactly a ride at Disney World that has to go through all this different inspection. They're safe, but
you're like, I can see why you two hung out. Like you are remarkably normal. Like you're remarkably
really,
dude. Yeah, you're a dude. You're one of the guys. I know I just met you like 3 minutes ago, so I'm sure my portrayal is 100% accurate. By the way, to an actor who's really good at pretending.
You're amazing.
However,
Will,
I can
really...
see why you guys hung out. So let's just presume for a moment that I'm right, that you're kind of normal.
Yeah.
What percentage of other Hollywood actors are dudes? Can drop in, can do the guys' weekend, hang out?
Well,
don't tell me it's high. I know you just told me Shia is a great guy. Now, don't tell me Shia drops in and it's just everything goes smoothly.
No, he's a different cat altogether. But Dax Shepard, Nick Swartzen, Oliver Hudson, all guys that are doing buddy games. I told you about buddy games.
Yeah, can you get this in?
So yeah, we're shooting this. I'm directing my first movie this summer called Buddy Games, based on this thing that me and my boys do every year. It's a weekend of competition, weekend of a lot of beer, and that's sort of the backdrop of the movie. And I don't know how much you want me to get into it, but one of the guys suffers an injury, loses his manhood 3 years earlier. As a result, the group kind of drifts. And 3 years later, his mother comes to the leader of the group to try to pull her son out of this funk. and get the guys back together and do the buddy games again. So it's a story. It's a crazy, raunchy, wild dude comedy, but it's really about friendships and how enduring friendships become more valuable as you grow up.
And you're going to be doing this in Vancouver.
In Vancouver, August 10th we start.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Check it out, Transformers. The last night, I didn't get to the grooming tip, so I'll just text you about them later.
I got all kinds of grooming tips.
This one actually suggested that
I got a beard question.
No,
I'm serious. I'm looking at the thing right now, and I'm like, it's remarkable, but I don't know that I can do that.
No, there's a website that has your picture like 7 times focusing on all the little different things, and I don't think this is even authorized.
What do they say that I do?
It says
really curious.
Embrace your natural hair color, which you've done.
I have done that.
It says women love that.
It's just too much work.
It also says a perfect low-key hairstyle, but it says you could dial it back a little.
Yeah? Really? Yeah.
It also says that
it moves nice.
None of this is real, by the way. This is all taped on.
Gosh, you guys have the best doctors out there. You know?
Yeah.
The thing is everybody's getting stuff done out there. That's why I can't wait. Thank you, Josh. Again, Transformers the last night in theaters now. It's always awesome to see you, man.
All right, you too. Thanks for having me.
The Ryen Russillo Show.
We got Will Cain with us the day after the NBA draft, right here on the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Baseball season rolls along. Tune in tomorrow as the Cardinals host the Pirates, presented by Firestone Tires. Coverage begins at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and the ESPN app. I want to talk about one and dones because it was a big part of what we saw last night. A record number of freshmen, all sorts of stuff, and I think people generally don't like that. I've never understood, Will, why whenever the one and done thing is kind of talked about, or whenever it's the NBA, I'll hear people say, the NBA, one and done's ruined that game. Where are the fundamentals? Follow your shot. Where's the box out? I go, you probably just don't like the NBA anyway, right? You probably don't like it anyway, because when I look at all the stars, they're almost all one and dones, a few 2-and-1s, maybe a couple 3-and-dones, and that's a guy like Steph or Klay Thompson. But for the most part, it's the one and dones, and those one and dones wouldn't even go to college if they could come straight out of high school back when LeBron was doing it. So the best players are the guys leaving the earliest. But I don't know if obsession's the right word, but the concern is maybe the better way to say it. The concern for a stranger's education. Like, why would you, if you liked basketball, why would you say that the one and done has ruined the game when it hasn't? And why would you care? I understand that education is a great thing. If I ever have kids, I will care about their education. It is likely that my kids will not be potential lottery picks. So I will be in the pool with the common people going, you're going to need your education and you're going to need it as soon as you can possibly get it. And that's going to be the most important thing. That's not what we saw from last night. Basketball is the most important thing to the group that was drafted, and yet I'll constantly hear this concern about, that's too bad that they're leaving school. Is it because of education? Is it because of selfishness with college basketball? Is it because we actually think it's ruining the game? I think it's a thing that is repeated all the time and sounds like a really intelligent take, and I know I'm always guilty of, no, this is why everybody's wrong, but I do think here that everyone is wrong when they talk about one and dones.
Well, okay.
Lot there, I know.
No. But yeah, let's attack this from both sides. Here's the thing. You know the ink blot test, right? Rorschach test. And the point of that is that you put something abstract on a piece of paper and people will see in it what they want to see, right? Doesn't matter what it actually is because it's nothing. But you want to see a butterfly, you'll see a butterfly. You want to see an X-rated image because that's where your brain always is, you'll see the X-rated image. I think the one and done in a similar fashion is a rule that everyone can pour all of their hatred of something else into. It's not really about that rule because the rule is a really bad compromise that nobody likes. So back to your point, if you don't like the NBA, you're gonna hate the one and done because it ruined college basketball, right? And the truth is, I hear people, the reason they hate the NBA is like, the guys, they don't care. Yeah, they're not passionate about it the way the kids in college are. Kids in college, that's where they're playing for love of the game. That's what you hear. So does one and done solve that for anybody that loves college basketball? No. It does. 1 year of these guys, no one loves that from that side of the equation. And from the other side of the equation, which is where I'm on, that I just find the requirement that someone give away their talents at a specified and non-negotiated price.
So now we're talking labor stuff here, which is a whole nother.
Look, by my very nature, I don't like being compelled to do things. I like being free to do what is best or worst for me, depending on my decision. And I don't like telling people of very special talents. Last night I heard on the draft coverage, I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Calipari. It was Calipari. He said, these are prodigies. These are child prodigies. These are like Mozarts, these guys. I agree. And they should be able to be paid what they want, and they shouldn't be forced to go to college for 1 year. So whichever way you come at this, it's a horrendous compromise that we can complain about.
Here's Cal, more on his process down in Lexington.
For a lot of these guys, Jay, everything has come easy until they went to college. What I would call for some of these kids a nice gap year. They're talking about one and done. It's not broken. It isn't broken. My kids finished the term. They're on lifetime scholarships. Can I recruit a little bit? They're on lifetime scholarships.
Nobody's going to stop you. I mean, even if I try, nobody's going to stop, right?
So they need that year, and a kid like Malik needed that year.
So he's talking about his guys. Cal embraced it before anybody else did. You want to sit there and pretend? I don't want to bring up healthcare right now, but like whenever I think of healthcare and people debating it, I have been in positions where I'm lucky enough now because I have it with my job. I also probably went much longer than I ever should have without it because I just couldn't afford it. When I lived in Massachusetts and they passed that thing and it's like fill out this card and send in your check and we're mandating that everybody has healthcare. And I'm like, I can't even afford this right now. I know what it's like to not have any money. I know what it's not, but I always would ask the question, well, who's paying for it, right? So now that I have it and I see people debate healthcare and it's like, nope, should be a right. I'm like, is it? Well, who's paying for it? Who's paying for it? So does it make me some awful person by asking the who's paying for it question? Because I ask it now when I have a job and I asked it before when I had no money. I asked it both times because I understood it from both sides. And when I think about the one and done part of it, I get the college people that are lifers that hate the idea of the player showing up for a year and not really being invested in the program. And De'Aaron Fox, who we had here and we loved, and we asked him on the air, off the air, and said, when did you know you were one and done? He goes, I left high school 3 days after graduation and went to Lexington planning on being in this year's lottery. Like that was the plan. So what if I just said, okay, we can't have it high school out of the NBA, which is what it seems like both you and I would want. What if we just start looking at college differently? And for the guys that want to stay 4 years and get a degree, that's great. Nobody's knocking you for it. But let's stop thinking that that's the best path. Let's stop thinking that staying 3 years makes you this better person. Why not just treat it like a PG year? Because that's what I think you saw with Cal last night. Like he's almost looked at college as this is a post-grad situation. And if you want to stay longer, you can do that too. And that feels toxic the same way when I asked that healthcare question. There's certain elements of that discussion that feel like, oh, well, you're just not supposed to talk about it that way. Well, what? Like I just can't ask questions about it? I can't talk about college athletics and say, maybe you just, hey, thanks. Thanks for letting me use you and you used me and we're good and I'm out of here. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yes, I don't like Cal's perspective on it because he actually likes the one and done, and we know why he likes one and done, because he prospers under that scenario, right? It's not really about the kid. It's not really about if this is best for the kid. It's that he's really good in the one and done environment. Like, if we had Cal here and I attacked it from the other side, hey Cal, these kids, they shouldn't be required to go to college. I don't know what he does. I mean, because he needs that rule. He wants that rule.
He'd probably go back to the NBA.
Right.
That'd be a really good question to ask him, and he's here enough. He'll probably be here this summer. Maybe I'm not going to be like, hey, let's make sure we. But that's a really good question because what I respect about Cal is that when everybody else was pretending it was still about education and all these other things, he's like, no. Like we're going to be a factory, and we are going to be the next step to you becoming a millionaire in the NBA. That's why he is always pointing out. We're talking about. What he likes to say, over $1 billion worth of negotiated contracts from guys that have gone through Big Blue Nation.
But he's defending his position there from someone saying you should be having them for 4 years.
How about if I say this? I don't care that he's defending his position. I don't care that maybe he's not being as transparent as he needs to be, because we all know what the answer is. I like that he's just not pretending that it's school first. Like, is it wrong for me to go, hey, you know what? It isn't school first for the guys that we saw last night.
It's just honesty.
And that's okay.
Yeah, well, you appreciate it because it's honesty. We all appreciate a little honesty, even if it's hard to hear. But I just, I would love to hear Cal address this. And I love college basketball. I love college football. College athletics are great. I agree. Oftentimes they're better than the product that the professionals put out from an emotional investment perspective and entertainment perspective and so forth.
There's an attachment thing sometimes there too. Like I like the NBA better than college basketball, but I like college football much better than I like the NFL.
But can I go against my own self-interest? Because that's the real question here. Can Cal go against his own self-interest? Can he understand that it's not right to force someone to go to school for 1 year and go, yeah, you know what, that would be a better environment? Can you go against your own self-interest, whether or not it's on that healthcare debate, whether or not it's on this debate? I just like college athletics. Yeah, I know you do, but is it right? Because in the end, as much as I like college athletics, I think a high school sophomore should be able to go to the NBA. And I don't think if you're good enough and they'll draft you. What? I think an 8-year-old. How about that? I'm ready to do away with the child labor laws, too. Hey, do you know about this 8-year-old? He's awesome. The Nets want him really bad. You know what? He should probably be able to cash in.
Now we're talking about philosophical stuff. Why don't we get through?
What was Cal saying last night? Somebody was talking, Billis, about junior high kids being scouted, like 8th graders. That guy right there, lottery soon. 8th grade, man.
LeBron was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, sophomore year? Going into his junior year? Something like that? Anyway.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Jimmy Butler heading to the T-Wolves. That's the top of next hour. Jeff Goodman on whether or not Paul George is heading out of Indiana. Kevin Pritchard, their GM, basically said this is a gut punch when Paul George said he didn't want to be here anymore. Thought he could be traded yesterday. Could he still be traded the day after or into free agency? With Will Cain, it's the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Hit us up at Russillo Show, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We're going to do a little NBA draft version of this.
Properly rated.
Maybe some other stuff in there as well. Over, under, and properly rated. Brought to you by Hum. Hum by Verizon is the technology that connects you to your car. Learn more at hum.com.
All right, guys, first one. The Celtics taking Jason Tatum over Josh Jackson.
Go ahead, Will.
Properly rated.
Properly rated.
Exact right call. If you'd taken Josh Jackson after he bails on a workout, after he sent every message to you, do not take me, that would be, what would that be? Fireable?
How nasty is that Josh Jackson thing? So if those that don't know
flight,
it,
right?
What's that?
They were on a flight.
They got up at 4 a.m. from Boston, flew to Sacramento, 6 a.m. flight, I imagine. It was Brad Stevens, Ainge, and Mike Zarin, who's the assistant GM. While they were flying to Sacramento, they were basically being told, don't bother. Jackson's not going to work out for you. They land, they spend the day there, and that's where Ainge last night said there's nothing to do in Sacramento, because somebody's like, what'd you do? He's like, nothing. There's nothing to do there. So that is an agent deciding he does not want Jackson to go to Boston. I imagine it's because he feels like there's too much of a logjam of different people, whereas if Jackson goes to Phoenix, he and Booker get all the shots. I don't know. There's still Bledsoe. There's still TJ Warren, but I understand because the agent feels like in 4 years, maybe Jackson's worth more. But that's just nasty. Like, find a way to be a jerk. Like, find a different way to do it.
Hey, why wait till they get on the plane, by the way? If you know you don't want your guy to go to Boston, why did you wait just to ensure that they're super pissed? Like,
yeah, right.
Wait, watch this, Josh. I'm going to wait till they get on the plane. Then I'm going to tell them, because that will really piss them off, and they'll never draft you.
So weird, too. It will be when the Suns play at Boston, if Jackson plays. He's going to get booed like crazy just because of the workout thing. The overall deal, moving out of 1, taking a guy that I think could have still gone number 1 in Tatum.
Underrated.
There you go. Pro Ainge over here.
Next one, De'Aaron Fox's ability as a shooter.
Overrated.
Overrated.
This is what I want to say about this, Ryan, before you get in. I just want to attack this chirp that, he's going to learn how to shoot. Hey, anybody can learn how to shoot. One thing we've learned at this point is that guys can learn how to shoot. We just had one of the greatest shooters of all time sit next to us and go, no, not everybody can learn how to shoot. And I'm particularly worried about De'Aaron Fox's ability to learn how to shoot.
And that's what Legs was saying, is he doesn't know. He didn't like it. That you're upset. You're tired of debating people about Aaron Fox and them just saying, oh, he'll figure it out.
I just think it's become a line that somehow everybody goes, yeah, you're right. People got guys to learn how to shoot. I give you Kawhi Leonard. Oh, yeah, Kawhi figured it out. So that's a skill that everybody just acquires.
Yeah, Kawhi can't be one of the greatest improvement stories in NBA history and then also have everyone go, oh, Kawhi learned how to shot.
So you can.
Yeah. What? What's the problem? Some guys will. A lot. That can't. Never will. Next one.
Jonathan Isaac's potential. People think he could be the best player in the draft.
Properly rated.
I can't overrate it, but I'm not going to say that's underrated. I see somebody that could be, and that's what we all fall in love with. We fall in love with the unknown. What could it possibly be? He has all the stuff in his game where if he became a superstar, we go, why didn't we just agree on that? For whatever reason, maybe it's Florida State, maybe it's the rest of the class in front of him. But if Jonathan Isaac became a stud, we go, well, all the tools were there. And it's nuts. When you go through Isaac's offense, okay, 6'11", catch, no dribble, shoot. All right, 6'11", catch on the wing, dribble to his right, off the dribble, pull up, 15-footer. He'll get a block. He'll throw it up ahead. He'll trail the entire offense, kick it back to him, catch, no bounce, trailer three. At 6'11", he does some of this stuff. Although some of the perimeter guys that he's described as, look, I don't love when, hey, he's a little bit like Durant, but taller. Well,
you don't like the Giannis comparison either.
No, because I think Giannis has, Durant, Giannis, the reason why they're so special is the handle. I don't think Isaac has that kind of handle from those dudes.
I'm going to be quit being apologetic, like, hey, what do I know? But Jonathan Isaac, if I'm betting who are the guys that make people regret what they did last night, it's Jonathan Isaac, it's Dennis
underrated.
Smith. It's those guys. Those are the ones that are going to make guys go, man, how did we pass on that?
Why didn't he go higher?
It's a great question, but it's really just because Tatum's a little more polished. Jackson's probably a little more polished, and everybody's so in love with these scoring guards now. I think if you don't have a scoring guard, like, what are we doing?
But on the other hand, I feel like you know what you're saying.
7 years ago, Isaac goes one, even though he's he's a new kind of big.
People, I get what you're saying. There's a copycat thing, like, oh, I need a scoring guard. I need a Russell Westbrook. I need a James Harden because that's what I see on
Lillard,
TV.
Curry,
but don't you think Jonathan Isaac is
Kyrie?
Don't you think at 6'11" with athleticism, Jonathan Isaac there's a trend and there's a copycatness to Giannis and Kevin Durant that Jonathan Isaac is benefiting from as well.
Yeah, but I still don't think he's not the ball handler those guys are. And I got to tell you, Florida State, when it looks really good, it looks really good. And when it doesn't, it also doesn't look very good. So maybe that's why he doesn't go number one. So, Rudy, one more.
All right, next one. This Will Cain tweet from earlier today.
Uh-oh.
Quote, with Dennis Smith Jr., I think the Mavs fans, for the first time, can finally see beyond the Dirk horizon.
Overrated.
No. Oh, my God, I feel so good about that tweet. Go ahead. Go get it.
Never deleting it.
Underrated.
Exactly. That's an underrated tweet.
What are you saying in it?
Well, just be clear. Yeah, that's why. You can put whatever you want in that. I'm not saying Dennis Smith Jr. is the next Dirk and on different positions. I'm not saying he's going to mean to the Mavericks what Dirk has meant to the Mavericks. I'm just saying that for 18 years now, Dirk has carried that franchise. Dirk has been the centerpiece, the center of gravity of that franchise. And for the first time, I think there is somebody in-house that you can say, once Dirk's gone, that guy could be the center of the franchise.
We have one more?
We do.
Would you want me to follow up on that?
I just want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong.
That's a tough one, man. We're talking about the greatest player in the history of that franchise.
This is
Orlando Blackman.
Where Will Cain First Take comes in. I didn't say he's Dirk Nowitzki.
You know what I've noticed with you guys on First Take? Is that when you say something and then you're called out on it, then you say, well, that's not really what I said.
Well, you do want to be held to what you say. I think you're taking a shot at Stephen A.
The Porzingis thing, him saying to you, I had no problem with Porzingis pick. I just had a problem that it wasn't part of the plan.
I threw video clips at him. Hey, man, you weren't in on Porzingis.
Boy, if that's neutral, what the hell is critical?
Somebody tweeted me today, Stephen A., if you're listening, somebody tweeted me today, you specifically said they should have taken Justice Winslow.
Real quick, guys getting personalized suits in the draft.
Overrated.
I know a lot of messages there, but it's like, hey, can you take your jacket off? Can you show us the lining? And the thing is, you don't ever really get to see it again. Kind of this weird deal. And I know some of them are very specific emotional subjects, so I'm not being insensitive to it, but it's it's like getting a tattoo on the inside of your flesh.
I think he's talking to you, Sir Rudy.
No, I'm saying on the inside.
Oh, you didn't mean like
yeah. Do you see what I mean?
The inner arm.
Yeah, right. Like DNA. Where are your tattoos? On the inside?
The Ryen Russillo Show.
We got another hour to go. Busy week post the NBA draft, and we're here late last night. We got Will Cain with us again. Am I here Monday? I better be, right? I'm here Monday.
You better be.
Why are you?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
just said yes.
No, I'm definitely here Monday. You just said yes?
Yeah.
And then we got a little bit of a road trip coming up later this summer. So looking forward to that. By the way, get your baseball in. Herb Street loves baseball. So glad the draft is over. That's day 2 on that joke. We're going to back off of that one. Tune into an NL Central battle on Sunday Night Baseball as the Cardinals host the Pirates, presented by Firestone Tires. Coverage of Sunday Night Baseball begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app at 8 on ESPN. If you're a Bulls fan today, Will, give me level of depression versus justified level of depression post Jimmy Butler getting traded last night. Or maybe you're just a happy guy and nothing really gets to you.
Level versus justified level.
Yeah, you like that question? Like, what
Really?
are you feeling? You don't like that question.
Keep going.
What are you feeling? But then when you're having that moment, you're like, okay, how mad can I really be? How upset, sad, whatever. Do you understand the differential there and what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, I like it. You're going to allow me to do some nuance. I can equivocate. I can take both sides of this argument. This is good. All right, so
never lost.
Undefeated. Never lost. Did I do a good impression?
You did. We're doing Bob Lee.
What? That's the new Bob Lee impression. Do we have that pulled for a drop yet?
What? Fell asleep.
Fell asleep? What?
Why did I make it? I didn't do a very good one. Okay, so back to the question.
There it is. Sorry, do it again.
What?
Actually,
I'm.
that was
now
when
do undefeated, never lost. What?
That was when Jay Williams told him that it had been reported. He had been told that Phil Jackson fell asleep during a lottery picks workout.
Yeah, we now know that was Luke Kennard and wasn't going to draft him anyway. I'm depressed. If I'm a Bulls fan, I'm depressed. You got, the famous Bill Simmons NBA trade metaphor is you never can get, 4 quarters for $1 never adds up in the NBA. You need the $1 bill, not the 4 quarters. And I know it's something you subscribe to. You talked about it on Mike and Mike this morning. You never get commensurate value for a superstar. Period.
You just don't. NBA GMs I've talked to said, you know what? I always want to. I win the trade if I get the best player. With 6, 7 different moving pieces, all these draft picks. Who's getting the best player?
Yep. Compound that with the fact that I think the quarters they got back, which don't add up to $1 anyway, are dimes. I just think Zach LaVine, man, you got 4 months of him. You didn't get a year of him. And he's the gem of this deal. I think Chris Dunn, man, you can retain some potential and hope and all that nonsense, but it's not. It's certainly diminished. Certainly. And Lauri Markkanen is a nice prospect. But here's the other side. You asked me the justified level of depression. And the one thing that makes this a little more justified is that Jimmy Butler did not want to be there. And that was, I look at it, Ryan, and I go, 2 years, man, 2 years. That's he's not gone tomorrow. But from what I hear and what you can verify or tell me I'm wrong on, what was going on in that locker room and the guy Jimmy Butler was for a team was not good. And that stuff is constantly undervalued. You just can't be a cancer. You just can't be poison. And I'm not saying Jimmy didn't deserve to be or it's his fault. Maybe it's somebody else's fault in that locker room. But the bottom line was that was a sentiment in Chicago that Jimmy was a problem.
But he was a problem, I believe, by the Bulls' own doing, that they didn't handle him the right way. So he's the employee that gets messed with, and they go, well, why does this guy have a problem with us? Like, well, because, as the story goes, as I said in Mike and Mike, as I've told on this radio show before, is that when Jimmy Butler was 3 years into this, and they were talking contract extensions. You remember, this is before the cap went up. So there was even a time when Klay Thompson was rumored to be at about $70 million. You're like, I kind of like Klay Thompson, but man, you got to be kidding. $70 million for Klay Thompson? Now, you do it again, you do it longer, you pay him even more, okay? That's how good Klay Thompson became. But Jimmy Butler, when they were talking about his contract extensions, it was this, oh, look at this guy. He didn't do anything the first year. Now he's 13 points per game. This is a nice player. We'd like to pay you about $40 million. No. I might be worth $40 million. That might be a fair value. But in the open market, in the NBA, once I get there, I'm just going to get the max amount, even if I'm not awesome. Because that's just the way it works, because every team's trying to find a guy that's even close to what I might be. And the Bulls, as it was told to me, said, you know what, we're taking Tony Snell and we're going to play him your minutes, and then your value is going to be even lower. And he was like, bleep this, went out. Tibbs is like, don't worry about it. I'm playing you. And then he goes out, gets 20, and then gets his full 70-plus million. And Butler has resented them ever since that. They shot it down. He's rolled his eyes when asked about it. I feel really good about it because of all the people that I've talked to involved in that deal. So Butler never trusted them because of that. So if Butler was the problem, maybe it's way worse. Maybe day-to-day, I'm not around that team. I'm never going to sit here in my national perch that's not doing any of the beat stuff that all those guys have to do and tell you that Jimmy Butler is awesome day-to-day, because I just don't know. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to assume anything. But if he's tough to work with, is it him? Or is it him going, this place, man? And then you've got his trainer last night who tweets out, after the trade, 0-82, Bulls' worst culture, have met drug dealers with higher morals. And I don't know if that means that he was promised that Butler wouldn't be traded. Butler's going to lose some money on all this stuff. But if it was going on for a year, if Jimmy Butler was on the market for a year, even if you think the Bulls are the dumbest front office, and I'll admit, I think they get criticized a little bit too much, and I know that's like one of those ducks as soon as he says it, because they had a really good stretch of drafting and signing. The Bulls front office actually at one point had a really good stretch there. It's been awful lately, but they knew what the market was for this guy. So if you're a Chicago fan, you're upset. You cannot like any of the pieces, but it's not like Monday the Bulls went, you know what, let's just trade Jimmy Butler and then we'll see what happens. They knew what the market was for him for almost a year, because the same exact deal almost went down with Minnesota in 2016's draft.
So here, listen to me, because I'm not being as dismissive as this sounds.
Okay.
Everything you just said is insightful, colorful, good information about what's going on in Chicago between Jimmy Butler and that organization. But it also has no bearing on the original question, which was, is the trade value, are you justified in being depressed about the trade value return? Whether it's Jimmy's fault or the Bulls' fault, the fact of the matter remains, it wasn't working here, and that depresses your trade value, thus making your depression a little less justified, right? So I
think that's kind of the point that I was hoping you would get to.
Yeah, I agree with you, by the way. This whole thing, like, he's a bad guy, he's a good guy, you've got to contextualize that, because organizations can be bad organizations, and situations can be bad situations, and management can be moronic, and management can make bad decisions and continue to depress a guy who's really talented like Jimmy Butler, and elevate a guy like Tony Snell, who didn't deserve that sort of push from the organization. But all that being said, you got to set it aside when you say, was this trade fair? Because the fact was, it wasn't working, and that depressed Jimmy's trade value.
You're right. I mean, when you have to trade this kind of guy, you're never going to win the trade.
Never.
Unless you get some pick that down the road turns into something where you go, oh, okay, all the protection came off, the pick's 2-3 years from now. And look, I went through all of these guys. I went through all of these picks and trades from the last few years. I mean, the package they got for James Harden, where I still to this day don't understand why OKC couldn't ride that out for another year. I mean, Jeremy Lamb, Kevin Martin, picks, you know? I mean, the Kevin Love deal actually, in retrospect, was terrific, and we're still not even sure what Wiggins is. You know, the KG deal that gets crushed all the time, now 10 years ago, they got Al Jefferson. They got the 6th pick. They got another first-rounder. The rest of the pieces are kind of irrelevant, but they couldn't get Rondo out of that. Like, you just go through all this. Remember the Dwight Howard trade? Obviously, Cerruti does as a Magic fan. When they traded Dwight Howard, I am going, you have to do better than Aaron Aflalo as the main piece coming in. You have to do. And the weird part about that Dwight Howard trade is it was the Lakers, it was the Magic, it was the Nuggets, and the Sixers. The Magic ended up doing better than anybody else with Bynum moving, with Iguodala moving, with Dwight Howard moving, because the Magic actually ended up with draft picks.
I refer to that as the trade that everyone lost. Like, nobody won that trade.
Okay, we can do this in football. There's the Herschel Walker trade where you trade the superstar and all the change you get in return adds up more than the dollar you traded away. But in basketball, can we come up with the example of where it did work out? You traded away the superstar, and what you got coming back was actually better for you. Can you come up with that example? What is that?
Kevin Love.
They also had Anthony Bennett and Thaddeus Young in that. But
Wiggins was enough.
Wiggins. Yep.
Think about this. Like, Love, that thing was on the way out, too, with Minnesota, and they didn't want to pay him all the way, and David Kahn did the weird contract with him. And remember, they weren't even, like, Rambis wasn't even playing him at the end of games there. And I get defensively and the numbers and all that. Like, there's a lot going on during the Kevin Love T-Wolves era. But if you got the first there because LeBron wanted to make all that work and you punch, like, we're out on Wiggins. Think all the teams, think how bad the Bulls would have loved that, I would think. Or how bad, imagine Paul George, you go, look, we're going to keep him, we'll re-sign him, we'll give you the number one right now, last night. Pritchard be doing backflips, but it doesn't sound like the Kevin Love one of all the ones that I have here. We went through with research. The Kevin Love one's a good one.
Hey, how does this trade fly today? So this has been mentioned several times by you today. Jason Tatum for
just
Paul
Butler.
George.
Oh,
just Paul George, straight up.
If you're Boston and you don't have anything beyond this year, you can't do it. And if you were the Pacers, you would be pumped.